I am Gregory Hallows, and this is Preserve Halloween Podcast. So, we're going to continue our series on Yule. This time, we're going to explore the second set of 4 nights individually, just like we did on the last podcast. I hope you enjoy this. It's been a lot of fun to kind of, a brief dive into Yule. A lot of really cool information. I will once again share the website that I found that kind of describes some of the rituals and other things. It was very helpful for me. I took some of the writings from that and kind of expanded on some of the information that I found. So I'll make sure and give credit in the notes for that. So here we go. By the 5th night of Yule, something has changed. The sun was still weak, barely noticeable in its return, but its pause was over. The world had crossed a threshold. What had been held in suspension now began to move again, slowly, unevenly, and unpredictably. This was when people stopped asking whether the sun would return and began asking what kind of year would come with it. The 5th night belonged to runes and divination, and while we don't have direct evidence that rune casting was part of the original Yule rituals, it was a liminal time when oaths were made, when the wild hunt took place, and people looked for omens for the coming year, and divination was part of that. And this was not casual fortune-telling. This was an inquiry under oath. The future during Yule was believed to be closer than usual, pressed up against the present like frost against a window. If you listened carefully, if you asked properly, it would answer. But answers came with a price. The future did not reveal itself kindly to those who asked without respect. Runes were taken out on this night, wood, bone, stone, sometimes carved by the hand of the one who cast them. These were not decorative objects. They were tools shaped by sacrifice and knowledge. Each rune carried a story older than the household using it, older than the land itself. Casting was done slowly. Fires were dimmed. Silence was encouraged. Questions were spoken aloud because the unseen world was believed to hear better when words were released into the air. Some people asked about harvests, others asked about health or death, and some asked about nothing at all, simply casting runes to see what insisted on being known. Not everyone used runes. Some red wax poured onto cold water, watching the shapes harden into symbols. Others gazed into bowls of dark liquid, water, ale, oil, reading movement and reflection. In certain regions, people sat alone in darkness, listening, waiting for thoughts that did not feel like their own. This was not entertainment. It was dangerous curiosity. To see too much was to invite fear. To ignore what was seen was to invite disaster. And the dreams that followed divination were watched closely. A dream on the 5th night could confirm or contradict what had been revealed. Either way, it was not dismissed. It was discussed in whispers, weighed carefully, remembered long after winter passed. By the 6th night, the atmosphere thickened again. This was Odin's night. And again, like with the runes, there's no definitive record of a night during Yule specifically set aside for Odin, but his presence looms large over the festival. He's the Norse god associated with wisdom, prophecy, death, and magic. And during Yule, he leads the wild hunt through the midwinter skies, receives oaths at the Bragful, and in later folklore, delivered gifts to children. The god who hung on the tree, the god who sacrificed himself to himself, the god of wisdom, madness, death, poetry, and war. Odin did not belong to comfort. He belonged to knowledge gained through suffering. On this night, he was believed to walk closest to the world of the living. Odin's night was not celebrated lightly. He was not approached with requests for prosperity or luck. He was honored for insight, especially insight that hurt, knowledge that stripped illusion away, truth that demanded change. And offerings made to Odin were often personal, words written and burned, items surrendered deliberately. In some regions, people fasted, choosing discomfort as a form of respect. Others stayed awake deep into the night, believing sleep would make them vulnerable to visions they were not ready to face. Stories of Odin were told again, not as heroic myths, but as warnings. He was clever but not kind. He rewarded seekers of truth, but punished those who sought knowledge for vanity or power alone. This was also a night associated with sacrifice of another kind, silence. Many chose to speak less, instead listening to the wind, to the fire, to the uneasy feeling that settled in the chest when something important hovered just beyond understanding. And this night passed slowly, uneasily, and when dawn arrived, it brought no clarity, only the sense that something had been set in motion. We'll be right back after this quick break. I am Gregory Hallows, your voice behind the Preserve Halloween podcast and founder of the Halloween Preservation Society. Halloween is more than a holiday. It's history, folklore, and a tradition worth protecting. If you love the stories, the research, and the deep dives into Halloween I bring you, please consider supporting the Preserve Halloween podcast. Your support can help me with more research opportunities, including travel to locations relevant to Halloween history, and to bring you even more insight into the world's greatest holiday. Every one of your contributions, no matter the amount, helps keep the jack-o'-lantern glowing just a little bit longer. So support the show if you can, help me preserve the past, and keep Halloween history alive for generations to come. Check the links in the show description to find out more. And thank you. And now, back to the podcast. And the seventh night of Yule was among the strangest. This was the night of the Årsgång, the year walk, which was commonly practiced around New Year's Eve. But this wasn't some light stroll to set intentions. It was a ritual steeped in danger, silence, and superstition. You were supposed to do the walk alone and in silence. According to folklore dating back to at least the 1600s, those who performed the Årsgång might glimpse not only their own future, but that of the entire village, including the coming harvest, deaths, marriages, even signs of war or fire. But they might also spot supernatural creatures lurking along the path. The Bakahast, a deadly soul-stealing water horse, the forest-dwelling Huldra, who lured travelers to their doom, or the dead themselves, wandering graveyards and singing from open tombs. On this night, brave or foolish individuals ventured out alone before dawn, moving in silence across familiar land made unfamiliar by darkness and ritual. The Årsgång was not a walk for comfort. It was undertaken barefoot or in thin shoes, often fasting, sometimes naked beneath cloaks. The goal was deprivation, sensory stripping, vulnerability. The walker moved along specific paths, churchyards, crossroads, boundary lines, places where worlds overlapped. They did not speak. They did not look back. They did not respond if they heard voices. What they sought was vision. Those who completed the Årsgång claimed to see the coming year unfold in fragments. A wedding procession that later became a funeral. A harvest that rotted before it could be gathered. Fires, births, deaths, prosperity or ruin shown without explanation or mercy. And not everyone returned unchanged. Some were said to lose their voices. Others were marked by what they saw, becoming withdrawn or haunted. But the knowledge they brought back was valued, even feared. To know what was coming was to prepare, or to grieve in advance. The Årsgång was not encouraged, it was tolerated, and those who walked were watched carefully afterward, because no one returned entirely untouched. So by the 8th night, the weight of Yule pressed heavily on everyone. This was winter God's day. While Yule centers on the returning sun, especially when observed around the winter solstice, winter's cold belonged to the gods who rule snow-covered forests, frozen mountains, and stormy skies. On this day, we honor two Norse deities associated with winter, Skadi and Ull. Skadi is the Norse goddess of winter. After seeking vengeance for her father's death, she chose a husband from the Aesir and settled in the snowy peaks. She is a divine huntress, a skier, and a bringer of mountain justice. Or, often considered Skadi's male counterpart, he is the god of skiing, archery, and winter hunting. And this day devoted to the forces that ruled cold, hunger, snow, and survival, gods of frost and storm, gods of stillness and endurance. These were not gentle deities. They were the ones who decide whether livestock lived or died, whether roads remained passable, whether spring would arrive early or late. And offerings on this night were practical: fat, grain, preserved foods, items meant to acknowledge the harsh reality of winter and ask, not for mercy, but balance. People spoke less on this night. There was nothing left to ask that hadn't already been asked. What remained was acceptance. Children were kept close. Fires were tended carefully. The household took stock, not just of supplies, but of resolve. Winter was not halfway over. The hardest month still laid ahead. And yet, beneath it all, there was something else. A quiet understanding that the worst had not broken them. The sun was returning. The fire still burned. The old ways had been honored. But Yule was not finished. The nights ahead would test joy itself. They would test restraint. They would test what it meant to welcome the future rather than fear it. And everyone knew it. Until next time, stay strange, stay curious, stay spooky, and always preserve Halloween.